Alright, so we have the rematch of Eryk Anders and Darren Stewart. First fight was in March this year, and Eryk Anders was pretty much dominating. It was heading towards a 10-8 round, maybe even a finish, and he illegally kneed Darren Stewart, just like Peter Yan did. So yeah, let's get into the striking. So Eryk Anders has a 1-inch height and 1-inch reach advantage, so yeah. Eryk Anders comes in as a southpaw. He's kind of a brawler, kind of a tank, just comes forward. Stand-up's pretty basic, but he's always coming forward looking to land the straight left. That's probably his favourite punch. That's a lot of his offense, really. And for Darren Stewart, he's more light in his feet. He's usually throwing singular strikes, likes to stick and move. That's when he's at his best, honestly. He likes the straight right at distance, stiff jab at distance. Just, when he's keeping his distance against his opponent, when he's not brawling, that's when he's at his best. And I think that's where he can win this fight. But when he gets in trouble is when he starts, exchanging bombs in the pocket. He will throw down. He's a fighter's fighter, so he will throw down. But I think if he wants to win this fight, I think he has a better chance to stick it on the outside, where he was pretty much controlling the pace of the fight before Anders landed that shot. And also, when you just get predictable and you start throwing hooks in the pocket, that opens up the level change for Anders, and that's what he looked for in the first fight, is when when Darren Stewart was starting to brawl, Eryk Anders would just change level and look for that driving double, get him onto the fence, look to finish from there. And if you're able to get Darren Stewart onto the fence in the clinch, he makes a lot of mistakes there. He's too over-aggressive, he's too damage-focused in the clinch. He's always looking for, hard elbows, frame-off elbows, Travis Brown elbows if the opponent's going for a double leg. He lets the opponents drop level in the clinch, far too easily. He has a weak overhook game. He doesn't get the overhook, he just kind of lets opponents get double unders and then they just drop levels way too easily and then take him down. On the mat, he is hard to hold down. He will give his back to get up, but Anders not a huge back taker, but still, it's gonna burn him in the future, and it has burned him in the past, but he does give his back every time to get back up. But yeah, if you're not looking to take his back, he's very hard to hold down. Had these guys win fights, so both these guys are durable. Darren Stewart, he has good cardio. Eryk Anders, he has a good chin. Both quite durable in their own ways. How these guys lose fights, so for Darren Stewart, it's that he has poor takedown defense, and for Eryk Anders, it's sometimes the inactivity. He just kind of gets out hustled by his opponent, and also he just has poor fight IQ, makes the wrong decisions quite often, and kind of leaves you scratching your head when you watch him fight sometimes. Path to victory for Darren Stewart. Look to stick and move with the jabs and the twos. We talked about this before. Also the lead leg low kick, which was working quite successfully in the first fight until you got caught, so yeah, look for that. Also look for damage in the clinch. Offense when he's trying to take you down. I think you'll be able to get back to your feet quite easily, even if he does take you down. I think that's going to tire him out quite quickly. But also, yeah, just look to damage him with, Travis Brown elbows when he's stalling on a double leg. Look for elbows just in the clinch in general. Also that high elbow guillotine that you like to use. I think he hit it against Maki Pitolo. And he's hit in another fight, but I can't remember. But yeah, look for that guillotine when he does shoot a single leg. Also, if you're able to maintain your posture, then that's fine. But if you get taken down going for the guillotine, then that's fine too. I think you can get back to your feet quite easily. So yeah, for Eryk Anders, look for the heavy pressure. Look to push him against the fence, control him from there. And then once you have him against the fence, look to disengage to throw a combination. And then hopefully that starts a brawl. A brawling sequence, and he starts exchanging with you. And when he starts exchanging, when he starts brawling, then you level change and go for another takedown on the fence. Rinse and repeat. How I see the fight going? Alright, so I think Anders needs to make it ugly, make it an ugly fight, clinch heavy. If he fights at range, I think he's going to lose a decision, most likely. I think he needs to make it ugly like last time, where he got Stewart near the fence, baited him into the brawl, opened up the takedown entries, tagged him on the feet as well, which helped. But I think at kickboxing range, Stewart seemed to be the faster and more active guy. So I think Anders fought the perfect fight, and I think he should, implement that exact same game plan in this fight as well. I'd probably say the larger octagon, which they're going to be fighting at, definitely favours Stewart and his movement. Anders is a guy that, likes to walk you down, likes to trap you against the fence, but, Stewart's movement is pretty good. But if Anders can pin him against the fence, like he had success in the last fight, I think he can get him down quite easily, because, Darren Stewart's fence clinch game, I think it needs serious work. He constantly lets opponents bully him in the clinch. He's got a very weak pummel game, lets opponents drop levels way too easily and then get around his hips even easier than that. You know, then more often than not, he doesn't look for underhooks, like when they do drop levels, or look to widen his base, so his opponents are able to like join their hands around his waist, around his hips, and then, you know, take it for a ride pretty much. So, you know, I think his fence clinch game needs some serious work. But yeah, I think there's going to be a close fight nearly every time these two fight. You know, I guess that was an anomaly last time, but you know, I think it's going to be pretty close every time you put these two in there together. Both rarely put their stamps on wins. I think Anders fought very smart in the first fight, and I think he's going to have to do the exact same thing in the second fight. But Anders is a hard guy to, you know, put your trust into. He's generally hasn't fought the smartest in his career, and it might be no different in this fight. But yeah, also another little wrinkle in the previous fight. I'm like, no means I'm saying Darren Stewart quit in their last fight, but he didn't look entirely thrilled to resume the fight when the doctor was brought out and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, who can blame him? He was getting his ass beat, pretty much. And he was still likely concussed from the barrage that Anders just hit him with. But it's just another psychological thing going into this fight. And only Darren Stewart knows deep down if he actually wanted to go out there. But to me, it didn't look like he was super keen on returning to the fight. So I think I'll be looking at the interviews, the media day interviews, the face-offs, just to see if I can use some, you know, armchair psychologist type vibe that I can read off maybe Darren Stewart. But, you know, Anders definitely has the psychological advantage of demolishing Darren Stewart in the first fight. And unlike a lot of other rematches, there hasn't been a long period of time between their first fight, so neither fighter's probably made marked improvements since then. So yeah, but I just think that every time you put these two in there together, it's going to be a close fight, and I think that was a bit of an anomaly, honestly. Alright, so let's have a look at the betting lines. Alright, so the prediction is Anders. I think he gets it done by decision. I think he wins the fight around 55 to 60% of the time. You know, I think the lines might be a little bit too high at the moment for Anders. I think I'd bet fight goes the distance at $1.80 or minus 125. Both these guys are incredibly durable and not much of, you know, a submission threat, and both have good cardio. So on paper, this fight goes to decision more often than not, and I'm hoping they bump up the price on this prop just because of the result in the first fight. But you know, I'd bet it if that was the price that they give us. Also, Stewart at like $2.40 or plus 140. As I said before, I think every time these two guys fight, it's pretty close. And I'd bet Anders at a pick'em, which it doesn't look like the line is going. But yeah, if Anders got to a pick'em, I'd bet him. But probably realistically, the bets I'm looking at are Stewart moneyline and the fight goes the distance